On March the 19th of 2015, 20-year-old Megan Pete was arrested in Travis County, Texas, for assault causing bodily injury to a family member. In the years that followed, Pete would achieve considerable success as a rapper under the name Megan Thee Stallion, earning 3 Grammy Awards and multiple other accolades. In 2020, her mugshot went viral, and a number of fans noted that her sullen and disheveled appearance was markedly different from her image as an artist. Pete clarified the circumstances surrounding the arrest on Instagram Live, and over 20,000 users watched the feed. "My mugshot is so terrible, it's so horrible," Pete said, adding that her 2015 arrest had stemmed from a fight with her boyfriend at the time. The self-proclaimed hot girl coach reportedly found out that he'd had a baby behind her back, and they began to argue. An altercation ensued when Pete tried to walk away, but the man kept pulling her, preventing her from doing so. She fought back, and at some point during the incident, someone spotted them and called the police. Pete said that law enforcement pulled up as she was punching her boyfriend, which made it seem that she was the aggressor. When the cops asked Pete if the man had hit her, she said that he hadn't, while he in turn claimed that she'd struck him in the eye. She was arrested, charged with assault causing bodily injury to a family member, and spent 2 days in jail before she was bailed out. Pete told her Instagram followers that part of the charge made no sense to her since she and the man were not in any type of familial relationship, underlining that the other woman and her baby were his family, not her. The case against Pete was ultimately dismissed in April of 2016 after her ex didn't show up in court and chose not to press charges. Number 11. Katie Curtis. 18-year-old Katie Curtis was scheduled to appear at Stevenage Magistrates Court on March the 6th of 2017. Curtis, who was expected to face a drug possession charge, didn't show up, and Hertfordshire police released an arrest warrant in her name along with her mugshot as an appeal for the public's help in locating her. After doing so, however, the department's social media was inundated by comments praising Curtis's good looks. The photo showed the blue-eyed brunette pouting as she looked into the camera. One Watford resident wrote, "You don't see many criminals that look like her. I'll help the police to find her if they want." While another commented, "Yet another beautiful young life destroyed by drugs. She must have Britain's most beautiful mugshot though." Curtis had ties to London and Scotland, and law enforcement suspected that she could have fled there, but it wasn't made immediately clear if she was located. Number 10. Jess Mabilia. On March the 1st of 2024, Australian man Jess Mabilia was arrested in Richmond, Melbourne, after law enforcement found him sleeping in an Audi Q5 that had been reported stolen. In the trunk of the vehicle, the police found a gym bag that contained meth, vials of GHB, and counterfeit cash. 28-year-old Mabilia was released on bail after pleading guilty to possessing counterfeit currency. A little over 2 weeks later, on March the 17th, he was found in another stolen car at the Basin. The man was in possession of an imitation firearm and 2 knives, as well as scales, dexamphetamine, meth, and butanediol. The father of 2 had multiple past convictions and had reportedly fallen into drug use after breaking up with a partner. His 2021 mugshot went viral when Victoria Police posted the photo to its Facebook, where it reportedly generated thousands of comments and hundreds of shares from users enamored with Mabilia's appearance. Many felt he bore a strong resemblance to singer John Mayer or actor Robert Pattinson. The post was bombarded by comments that read, "Are you trying to lock him up or hook him up?" Or, "I hope I find him on Tinder before the authorities find him," or, "He could come hide out at my place." Mabilia, who became known as Australia's hottest criminal, ultimately avoided an 8-month custodial sentence by pleading guilty to multiple charges that included drug and weapon possession. In the summer of 2024, he was credited for the 113 days he'd already spent in custody and was released on a 12-month community corrections order. During a subsequent interview, Mabilia entertained the possibility of turning his newfound fame into a modeling career, much like famous US hot felon Jeremy Meeks had. He also expressed an interest towards appearing on reality TV and revealed that he'd already received a few offers from OnlyFans. Number 9. Jessica Michibata. 38-year-old fashion model Jessica Michibata was arrested in March of 2023 after a package containing MDMA was intercepted while en route to be delivered to the Tokyo hotel where she was staying with an acquaintance. According to local news reports, the latter was identified as a man whom Michibata was dating, and he was arrested as well, but his name wasn't released. The Japan-born model was pursuing her career in the US and was at the time visiting Tokyo. The drugs were reportedly delivered from overseas. Toru Hirahata, former chief at the country's Narcotics Control Department, told the media that the arrest likely occurred following a controlled delivery investigation. It would have begun with customs officials discovering the drugs and replacing them with a counterfeit, thus preventing them from entering the civilian population. The police was then alerted and the package was tracked to its final destination, whereupon the recipient was caught in the act. Michibata was known from her modeling work but also from her relationship with British Formula One legend Jenson Button. After dating for a few years, they got married in the mid-2010s. It only lasted for a year before they got divorced, and Michibata went on to marry Ken Kao, a film producer known for his work on The Nice Guys and Silence, among others. According to updates on the case, Michibata, who was signed to the Revive modeling agency, denied being involved in the drug delivery. She was, however, known for experimenting with potentially dangerous substances. A few weeks before her arrest, she'd posted a video on Instagram in which she underwent an experimental treatment called Cambo, which involved putting the poison of frogs that live in the Amazon in South America into the body. Number 8. Natcharot Ployplye. A former men's magazine model was arrested for shoplifting in Bangkok, Thailand in early November of 2016. 30-year-old Natcharot Ployplye, who'd once competed for the title of Miss Maxim, tried on a dress worth nearly $300 while in a store at the Emporium shopping mall. She then asked the store manager to get her a larger size. While the worker was distracted, Ployplye began speed walking out of the store without paying for the dress she already had on. The store manager alerted security and they were able to stop her. The police were called and Ployplye was taken into custody on a theft charge. According to the arresting officer, Ployplye looked like she was on drugs, but refused to give her real name and also refused to provide a urine test. She later tested positive for illegal substances, but it wasn't made immediately clear if she faced further charges related to her drug use. Number 7. Kirsty Sansum. On March the 11th of 2024, English law enforcement stopped and searched a vehicle at a service station on the M5, a few miles from the town of Tewkesbury. The car's occupants were identified as 29-year-old John Rogers and Kirsty Sansum, aged 30. Hidden under the front seat, officers found a carrier bag containing 3 kilograms of cocaine with an estimated street value of £240,000 to £300,000. The duo was arrested and Sansum became a viral sensation when the police released her mugshot. She appeared with her blonde hair tied in a bun while wearing a grey hoodie. The combination of piercings, tattoos, and the defiant look she gave the camera prompted a wave of comments across multiple social media platforms, from users swooning over her. "She's a looker," one commenter wrote, while others said that she was really attractive or glamorous. Further investigation and an examination of Sansum and Rogers' mobile data revealed that they had been working with 28-year-old Kingsley Williams and Aaron Russell, aged 30, to bring the drugs into Gloucestershire. All 4 suspects pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply cocaine in December of 2024. Rogers, Williams, and Russell were each given custodial sentences ranging from 5 to 6 years. Sansum was handed a 2-year suspended sentence with additional drug rehabilitation for 9 months and 100 hours unpaid work. Number 6. Veronica Koval. 27-year-old Virginia woman Veronica Koval was arrested in May of 2023 for driving nearly 100 miles per hour in a 55 zone. The registered nurse spent the night in jail and subsequently pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of reckless driving. Her license was suspended for 30 days and she was also given a $750 fine. Not long after her arrest, Koval's processing photo went viral after it was shared to HOTTIES, an Instagram account featuring attractive criminals. Koval revealed it was her in the mugshot by responding to a user asking for her handle on the platform. From that point on, she continued interacting with those commenting on her supermodel material appearance. One user wrote, "This is literally the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," while another chimed in with, "She can recklessly operate my heart." In January of 2024, Koval spoke to the New York Post and said that she was surprised by the attention and the overwhelming number of suitors in her DMs, given that she thought herself to be a very average person. She did, however, share some of her beauty tips, which included Botox, fillers, laser facials, and medical-grade skincare. The woman also mentioned that she was balling on a budget when it came to her makeup routine, noting that she got most of the products she used from Target. In relation to her speeding charge, Koval said that she took full responsibility for it and pledged to never do it again. Number 5. Stephon Mosby. On the evening of December the 28th of 2024, law enforcement in Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, spotted a black Buick bearing license plates that were registered to a Chevrolet. The police tried to perform a traffic stop, but the vehicle sped away. The ensuing chase would stretch across nearly 40 miles and traverse 3 county lines. 23-year-old Malik Harrell was behind the wheel, while Stephon Mosby, aged 22, was in the passenger seat. Harrell barreled down residential areas, reaching speeds close to 90 miles per hour before he pulled into an alleyway near 24th and Fairmont. Mosby got out with an AK-47 style pistol in hand and took refuge in a nearby home. Some of the law enforcement officers carried on with a chase while a tactical unit surrounded the residence. Less than half an hour later, Mosby surrendered. Meanwhile, the chase continued and culminated with Harrell crossing into oncoming traffic. He eventually crashed into another vehicle at the meeting point of 51st Street, Capitol Drive, and Fond du Lac Avenue, which was considered one of Milwaukee's busiest intersections. Harrell nevertheless kept driving until the Buick broke down near 61st and Appleton. He was arrested, and a search of the vehicle produced marijuana, a digital scale, and methamphetamine, along with the same type of firearm that Mosby had had on him. The men faced several charges, and law enforcement said that the recovered items indicated the duo was involved in street-level drug sales and distribution. When Mosby's photo was released on social media, a number of commenters, predominantly female, were quick to react. Some of them praised the young man's appearance and striking green eyes, while others pushed for him to be released and even offered to secure his bail. Number 4. Roosmarijn De Kok. In August of 2017, Victoria's Secret model Roosmarijn De Kok received the brand's coveted wings and was set to walk during its November show in Shanghai. Around the time of the announcement, the Dutch model's criminal past made headlines again. On July the 18th of 2014, De Kok was arrested in New York City for shoplifting from a Tribeca Whole Foods. A guard had spotted her stashing chocolate bars and a bottle of expensive fish oil in her purse. De Kok was stopped by security as she attempted to leave the store without paying for the items. She was arrested and charged with misdemeanor petty larceny and criminal possession of stolen property in the 5th degree. De Kok was at the time 19 years old and a Vogue cover model who'd also worked for Elle magazine and Urban Outfitters. Upon appearing in Manhattan criminal court, the Saint Laurent-clad teen was told by Judge Denise Dominguez to stand properly and uncross her arms. Her lawyer argued that she was completely innocent and that she had forgotten that the items were in her bag after she bought fat-free yogurt and protein bars from the shop. He argued that the charges should be dismissed because De Kok didn't actually leave the store with the products. Ultimately, a deal was reached in which the model wasn't required to make an admission of guilt. The charges against her were to be dismissed, provided she stayed out of trouble for 6 months and did 1 day of community service. Number 3. Luisa Kremleva. In June of 2017, Russian-born model Luisa Kremleva accused soccer player Theo Hernandez of forcing himself on her in Costa del Sol, Spain. Kremleva claimed that Hernandez, who was at the time in his late teens, had abused her in the back of a Porsche Cayenne outside Olivia Valer nightclub in Marbella. After the alleged assault, Kremleva claimed that the athlete pushed her out of the vehicle, causing injuries to her knees. Hernandez admitted that they had relations in the Porsche, but highlighted that it had been fully consensual. He was never arrested or charged with any crime. Aside from Kremleva's report, there was nothing else to support the notion that an attack had occurred. Investigators halted their probe into Hernandez within a matter of days. CCTV footage showed that Kremleva had sustained the injuries to her legs by falling outside the club, and not due to her being thrown out of a vehicle. Additionally, 2 hours after the supposed attack, she repeatedly messaged Hernandez, asking when he was going home to spend the night with her. She also got into a fight with other women who were part of his group before heading home alone. A few hours later, Kremleva called the police to report that the soccer player had forced himself on her. It became clear to investigators that the model, who'd gained media attention by appearing on Spanish reality TV shows, had had consensual relations with Hernandez. She then got angry that he wouldn't leave the club with her and decided to falsely accuse him of attacking her. The allegations in and of itself had the potential of derailing Hernandez's career, but he went on to sign a deal with Real Madrid and then AC Milan. The latter club paid 22.8 million euros for the defender's transfer, and his market value more than doubled while playing for them. Kremleva was arrested in January of 2020 and charged with making a false criminal complaint. The case would undergo several delays before the trial was scheduled for October of 2024, and Hernandez was set to give evidence during the proceedings. Prosecutors sought a 2-year sentence for Kremleva. In January of 2025, Hernandez would become AC Milan's all-time highest-scoring defender, with 30 goals to his name. That month, it was also revealed that Kremleva had struck a deal with Costa del Sol prosecutors. It involved her admitting to acting maliciously in falsely accusing Hernandez of abuse and unlawfully hiding the fact that he wasn't responsible for her injuries. In exchange, she avoided spending time behind bars and was given a 6-month suspended sentence, in addition to a €1,800 fine. Today's topic was requested by Mr. Vaughan 2516. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Stephon Beaudoin. On August the 5th of 2014, Stephon Beaudoin was arrested after she was identified as the ringleader behind a crew of young thieves operating in Victoriaville, Canada. The 21-year-old and 3 underage accomplices had broken into at least 39 homes, usually by gaining access through the basement window. They made off with a total of over $58,000 in cash and luxury goods. Beaudoin was tied to the crime spree through her pink-rimmed Mitsubishi Lancer, which was spotted at the scene of multiple heists. When the police arrived at her home, they searched the young woman's vehicle and found about $5,000 in cash, as well as multiple firearms. Beaudoin had done some modeling, mostly posing for calendars, and immediately after her arrest, she asked one of the officers for their phone. She wanted to log into Facebook and delete some of her racier photos, fearing that they could damage her case. The young woman's concerns would be proven correct, but not in the way that she thought. Her bikini-clad profile photo went viral after it was published by the Montreal Journal, and as more of her photos spread across social media, Beaudoin became known as the world's hottest thief. Stephon Beaudoin will steal your heart, then your stuff, one Twitter user wrote, while another commented that she was too pretty for prison. By late September of 2014, the Crown's charges against the former nursing student totaled 114 counts. Her lawyer told La Nouvelle Union newspaper, "The record is impressive. I was given a document that is at least 12 inches thick." The charges included breaking and entering, stealing stolen property, and illegally owning firearms. In a subsequent interview with Vice, Beaudoin said, "I knew I was going to be arrested because I had been followed for a week, but I wasn't able to stop. It was just so intense." The young woman's hot criminal allure inspired countless memes, articles, social media reactions, and even an action figure. She had the opportunity to revitalize and build upon her modeling career. In July of 2015, she made the cover of Sommum, a Quebec men's magazine, and in September she was recruited by B Models Management. Beaudoin eventually pleaded guilty to 30 of her charges, for which she was given 90 days in prison to be served on the weekends, and 200 hours of community service. A judge allowed her to further pursue modeling, but her opportunities in that regard would come with a potentially limiting factor. Beaudoin was banned from using her image to promote illegal behavior, meaning that she couldn't profit from the hot criminal moniker which had made her famous. The woman found the terms agreeable, while her agency stated that it was looking at other avenues for her to capitalize on the attention. Stick around after the last chapter if you've not yet seen our release about when thinking you're untouchable goes wrong. That's coming up right after this. Number 1. Shannon Schwartz. On January the 11th of 2024, law enforcement in Honolulu, Hawaii, received calls from concerned citizens who reported seeing a man knocking on the door of a house with a pistol tucked in his belt. The suspect, Billy Wilhelm Hunsinger, was located and arrested. The police found him to be in possession of an AR-15 style rifle with no serial number or manufacturer and 205 rounds of Remington .223 caliber ammunition, the majority of which were loaded into 5 magazines. The search of Hunsinger also produced a grenade pin, an empty 6-hour pistol magazine and 2 scales, along with 115 grams of suspected crystal meth and 5 grams of suspected cocaine. The man was arrested and taken to Honolulu's Federal Detention Center. Hunsinger's girlfriend was Playboy model Shannon Schwartz, who'd recently appeared on the cover of Maxim, New Zealand. On February the 21st, she repeatedly contacted a Department of Homeland Security federal agent. The latter reportedly received numerous missed calls, text messages and voicemails from Schwartz, who claimed to have been told that he could handle a situation for a high-profile inmate. On February the 22nd, she texted the agent, "I can help with whatever you need. Dollars. Not sure what your services cost." The model asked for a meetup so that she can prove she was serious. The man reported the matter to his superiors and an investigation into Schwartz was launched after it became evident that she was trying to bribe the official in order to secure her boyfriend's release. When the agent told her that he couldn't get involved, she continued to press him, reportedly writing, "Shannon Schwartz, model, Google first. I'm not with the Fed or the PD. I am just a model, FYI." On March the 1st, the agent told her that they would have to move the conversation to his personal phone, which was actually an undercover government device that monitored their communication. On March the 5th, they met at a Starbucks on Nuuanu Avenue. The agent told Schwartz that there wasn't much he was able to do because Hunsinger's case was handled by the FBI, but added that he knew a judge who could perhaps help. Schwartz offered to pay the agent $5,000, half up front and the other half upon the release of her boyfriend. After the meetup, Schwartz texted the agent, "Thank you so much. You don't know how important this is to me. I appreciate you. It's all good. No stress, please." They met again on March the 7th at a terminal of the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. Schwartz pulled up in her BMW and gave the agent a white paper bag containing a sandwich, a Rice Krispie type treat, and a yellow fountain soda cup with $2,500 inside. The model mentioned that she was willing to pay more to ensure that Hunsinger didn't spend any more time behind bars. Shortly after handing off the bribe, Schwartz was arrested. The model was charged with 1 count of bribery of a public official and 1 count of obstruction of justice, facing up to 16 years behind bars. In the summer of 2023, Albanian drug lord Selamet Mehmetaj was given a sentence of 4.5 years in prison after it emerged that he was running cannabis factories staffed with illegal immigrants and trafficking copious amounts of the drug across the UK. Mehmetaj, who was nicknamed Devil, was brazen about his operation, advertising his cannabis factories and the strains available to potential buyers on an Instagram page titled Albanian Blood. In 2021, reporters from the Daily Mail posed as customers looking to buy wholesale quantities of cannabis and met with Mehmetaj in Palmer's Green, North London. They secretly recorded him as he boasted about his luxury cars and how he had been able to avoid detection from the police because cops raiding his home had failed to find a stash of ammunition and drugs. Mehmetaj also described how he'd tortured a client who'd failed to pay him, claiming that he'd bound him in a basement, beat him regularly, and then chopped off 2 of his fingers. He then told the undercover reporters, "I did that to the guy, then I went in the evening and I slept like a baby. I did not care." The investigative report resulted in London detectives launching a probe into Mehmetaj's operations. The man continued running his cannabis operation and bragging about his exploits in rap videos posted on social media. He also appeared in a 20-minute interview on a primetime show called Glamour Zone in Tirana, Albania, where he denied being involved in any criminal activity. In November of 2022, Met Police raided 2 of his factories, which were hidden in suburban North London homes. In the first, they found Mehmetaj and his brother Dior, who was described as his right-hand man. They were tending to cannabis plants on the property, alongside 2 of their illegal immigrant workers, whom they reportedly paid only around $100 per week to work full-time at the factories. The police raided the second factory a few days later. The combined number of cannabis plants recovered from the 2 factories was reported as 140, from which the authorities calculated a single harvest would have netted Mehmetaj over $200,000. Number 6. Alan Moradian. Leading up to 2022, Australian drug kingpin Alan Moradian had lived a life of opulence, sustained through millions earned through trafficking. Moradian, who had ties to the notorious Comanchero bikie gang, had a mouthful of gold teeth and wore a Rolex Skydweller worth over $80,000. He spent millions to turn a mansion in Sydney's northwest into a suburban palace, complete with antiques, Versace furnishings and expensive artwork, including having his ceiling painted in the style of the Sistine Chapel. Moradian's longtime partner Natasha once tried to curtail her husband's flaunting of his wealth and position. In a 2007 email, which later became part of evidence presented in court, the woman wrote, "Why do you just sit there and show off? I am the man, I am the man," before pointing to fictional mobster Tony Soprano to say that he'd never boast about his gains, nor tell everyone that he was the boss. Natasha's email continued, "You, on the other hand, want the attention. You get a big head. You love it. People like that won't survive." Her words would prove prophetic. Moradian was arrested and sentenced to 16 years in prison in 2011 for his role in the Gold Gun Syndicate, thus named after a pistol seized from a criminal within the organization. The law enforcement operation, which also targeted a number of Moradian's syndicate associates, amounted to one of the largest ever busts of a cocaine and money laundering racket in the history of New South Wales. Moradian himself was accused of importing nearly 90 pounds of cocaine in horse-stamped packages from Chicago via Los Angeles. He was paroled in 2017 and in 2022 learned from law enforcement that he was in imminent danger and that there was a hit out for him. It reportedly stemmed from a debt he owed to his associates, which amounted to about $500,000. Moradian took the threat seriously as he moved out from his luxury Sydney property and for months moved through at least 4 different residences, changed multiple vehicles and constantly switched up his routine. At around 8:30 a.m. on June the 27th of 2023, 2 assassins tracked Moradian down to a Bondi Junction apartment block in Sydney's east, where he'd been hiding out. They ambushed him as he sat in a rented vehicle in the underground parking lot and prepared to go to the gym. The gunman fired at least 7 bullets into Moradian's head and body, killing him on the spot. He was reportedly executed on Natasha's birthday. Number 5. Thomas and Colleen Campbell. In the summer of 2018, Manchester couple Thomas and Colleen Campbell were arrested for money laundering. Thomas was described as a drug baron at the head of a family-run cocaine operation that involved, among others, his brother, Lee Campbell, his cousin, Stephen Campbell, and Colleen's brother, Brian Beaudoin. Lee and Stephen were eventually convicted of intent to supply cocaine, while Brian pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply. Thomas and Colleen used their cocaine-funded fortune towards building a 2-story extension to her home, adding an extra bedroom, a gym area in the garden, and a personal bar. They also bought high-powered cars and went on luxury holidays to Cancun, Egypt, Gran Canaria, and Mallorca. While Thomas headed the cocaine operation, Colleen claimed tax credits and child benefits while working part-time for budget store Matalan. In 2019, the couple pleaded guilty to money laundering, with Colleen receiving a suspended sentence of 16 months, while Thomas was jailed for 2 years. In 2021, the couple acrimoniously broke up after Thomas had started seeing another woman. Colleen was reported to have sent a message to a friend regarding the split, and a fragment of the message read, "Karma is best served cold, and then tables turn real fast. John Belfield, a rival drug dealer and the ex-boyfriend of Thomas's mistress, also learned about the relationship and masterminded a plan to rob him in retaliation. Colleen subsequently forged an alliance with John and provided him with extensive information about her ex, including his movements and details about his home and vehicle. On July the 2nd of 2022, 3 men ambushed Thomas at his home in Mossley, Greater Manchester. They stomped, strangled and stabbed him, in addition to pouring boiling water over his genitals. 38-year-old Thomas died as a result of the ambush, in which he suffered roughly 61 separate injuries. Little information about the killing was released to the public in the immediate aftermath. 38-year-old Colleen was reported to have revealed her involvement after a seance. Colleen told Thomas's mother, Lynn, that the clairvoyant had summoned his spirit and that he'd given her intimate details about the killing. Lynn became suspicious and reported the conversation to the police, who determined that the information relayed to her couldn't have been known by anyone except Thomas's killers. Detectives followed up on the lead, eventually uncovering that Colleen had been communicating with Thomas's killers prior to his death. She was acquitted of murder but convicted of manslaughter and was sentenced to 13 years in prison. 29-year-old Reese Stephen, one of the attackers, was convicted of murder and given a minimum of 37 years, while another man, Stephen Cleworth, was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to a minimum of 12 years. John Belfield, the alleged mastermind, was wanted on suspicion of murder by UK police, and as of the latest updates on the matter, he'd been arrested in Suriname, South America, for drug possession. It remained unclear if he'd have to serve a sentence there before he could be extradited to the UK. Number 4. Leonidas Vargas. By the late 2000s, Colombian cartel boss Leonidas Vargas had gained a reputation as one of the country's most prolific drug traffickers. He was known as the King of Caquetá, a region in the south of the country. He ran a multi-million-dollar operation through a network of cocaine processing laboratories set deep in the jungles of Caquetá. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he worked closely with the Medellin cartel, which was then headed by notorious drug lord Pablo Escobar. Vargas was believed to have organized his own group of assassins and was suspected to have ordered an assassination attempt on presidential candidate Horacio Serpa. In 1995, Vargas was arrested in Colombia and jailed for 25 years on murder and illegal firearm charges, and another 19 years on drug trafficking charges. A few years after being sentenced, Vargas narrowly survived an assassination attempt when a bomb was let off in his cell. He was released in 2002. By then, local authorities had seized 135 houses, 4 vehicles, 2 bank accounts, and 3 companies from him, with all the valuables determined to have been purchased through illegally obtained funds. Vargas nevertheless continued moving massive amounts of drugs, and in 2006, he was arrested in Madrid, Spain, after 941 pounds of cocaine trafficked by his organization were found in a container at a port in Valencia. At the time, there was a $5 million bounty against him, and he was among Colombia's most wanted drug barons. While his trial in Spain was pending, Vargas was conditionally released due to various health problems, with one of the conditions being that he wouldn't be provided official security. Given his previous run-ins with the law and survival of assassination attempts, 59-year-old Vargas was regarded as untouchable by that point. However, rival outfits had been trying to gain control of his cocaine empire. In January of 2019, Vargas was taken to a private room at Madrid's Doce de Octubre hospital due to health problems involving his lungs and heart. On the 8th of the month, 2 assassins entered the hospital and approached the room where Vargas was sleeping. Only one other patient was present in the room, and he replied negatively when one of the intruders asked him if he was Vargas. In the moments that followed, the assassin pulled out a gun with a silencer and shot Vargas 4 times, killing him instantly. He threatened the other patient to remain quiet, stating that the execution had nothing to do with him, before he and his accomplice fled. Only 2 days later, Vargas's girlfriend, actress and beauty queen Liliana Lozano, and his brother Fabio were kidnapped, tortured, and murdered in Colombia. The move was further proof that rivals had begun seizing control of Vargas's empire. Number 3. Mansoor Kayani. In early December of 2021, UK drug dealer Mansoor Kayani was sentenced to 15 years and 6 months in prison for his role in a massive heroin and cocaine trafficking operation. In the spring of 2020, Bedfordshire police launched Operation Costello, which was described as the department's largest crackdown to date. The effort began in the wake of the wider-reaching Operation Venetic, which involved French and Dutch police along with the National Crime Agency, NCA, and regional organized crime units, ROCUs. The primary focus of the complex investigation was the encrypted phone communication system called EncroChat, which was almost exclusively used by criminals. Law enforcement seized the servers of the encryption tool and was able to see messages and other media sent by users. The initial response from British police alone resulted in at least 746 arrests, the seizure of over $65 million in cash, as well as that of 77 illegal firearms and over 2 tons of drugs. 28-year-old Kayani was linked to a specific handle on EncroChat, and he was determined to have arranged meetings with drug and cash couriers, in addition to coordinating payments to suppliers and deciding on code words to be used during his criminal activity. Law enforcement identified Kayani as a major player, and he was arrested in November of 2020. Videos presented by the prosecution at Luton Crown Court would show the man being driven around in a Ferrari, as well as his antics in a London nightclub during which he and members of his entourage were pouring champagne over their luxury watches. Detective Inspector Tom Steen told the media during the legal proceedings into Kayani's case that his money came exclusively from illegal activities. Steen added, "I am sure many others will feel sick watching him parade his wealth and share my satisfaction that he is now facing a lengthy prison sentence." After a 3-day trial, Kayani was found guilty of conspiracy to supply. Number 2. Adnan Khan. In December of 2016, Amy Schreeder of Huncote, Leicestershire, England, was captured with over 3 pounds of high-purity cocaine, crack cocaine, cut-in agents, and over $56,000 in cash. Schreeder was the girlfriend and partner in crime of prolific area drug dealer Adnan Khan, who was at the time in his early 30s. Law enforcement linked him to the seizure and later in the day caught up with him as well. Khan led the police on a chase during which speeds of over 100 miles per hour were reached in the Fosse Park and Narborough Road area of Leicester. Before coming to a stop, Khan caused a family car to spin off the road, but the occupants weren't reported to have been seriously injured. He was arrested at the end of the pursuit, and the police also found cannabis in his possession. In spite of the evidence that Khan was involved in drug trafficking, he was bailed out the day after his arrest. He subsequently failed to appear in court and fled to Pakistan in January of 2017. He would spend roughly 15 months on the run. During that time, he posted messages to his social media boasting about his luxurious lifestyle while posing with a variety of expensive cars, designer accessories, and firearms. In one photo, which showed Khan brandishing a firearm, he claimed that he was able to live it up in a third world country because he was a gangster and well-connected. The wanted man claimed he was untouchable and wrote in one post, "They say my whole team is under investigation, but you know what I say, the wise man always gets away." In 2018, Khan discreetly returned to the UK and resumed his criminal activity, but was eventually located by law enforcement. Officers apprehended him at a flat in Siston, Leicestershire, where he was found with a high-purity stash of 372 grams of heroin and 185 grams of cocaine that were hidden under a water tank. He was also found with several $1,000s in cash and the packaging from nearly 7 pounds of Class A drugs, which reflected the volume of his operation. He pleaded guilty to a plethora of charges that included conspiracy to supply cocaine and heroin, aggravated vehicle taking and driving dangerously, and failing to stop for police. For the events of December 2016, For April of 2018, he pleaded guilty to possession of heroin and cocaine with intent to supply. He was given a 12-year sentence. Updates from late October of 2022 indicated that Khan, who'd served roughly 3 years of his sentence, had absconded from HMP Sudbury in Derbyshire. The details of his escape were not released to the public, and as of the latest information made available to the media, the police were still looking for him. Number 1. Matteo Messina Denaro. By the time of his capture in January of 2023, Matteo Messina Denaro had become known as the last godfather of the Sicilian Mafia, also known as Cosa Nostra, and had amassed billions of dollars as a result of his vastly encompassing criminal enterprises. Denaro, who once publicly bragged, "I fill this cemetery all by myself," was born in the province of Trapani, Sicily, and he reportedly learned to use a gun in his early teens. He made a name for himself by murdering rival mafioso Vincenzo Milazzo and fatally strangling the man's pregnant girlfriend. Denaro eventually came to control all the mafia activities in the Trapani province. He made a fortune through extortion rackets, skimming off the public construction contracts handled by his companies, and through international drug trafficking. He also operated legitimate businesses by having stakes in a supermarket chain and owning vast olive groves. Denaro was a prominent figure in a bloody war waged by the Cosa Nostra against the Italian state and the authorities, who would see them brought to justice in the early 1990s. One of the most significant moments in the conflict consisted of 2 bomb attacks that killed famous anti-mafia magistrates Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino in 1992. More bombings followed in 1993 in Florence, Milan, and Rome, resulting in at least 10 people losing their lives, countless others being injured, as well as damage to cultural landmarks. In the aftermath of the 1993 bombings, Denaro went into hiding. As the years passed, Denaro continued amassing power and came to be considered as an heir to the reign of Bernardo Provenzano, who was at the time the de facto boss of all bosses within the Cosa Nostra. Provenzano, who hailed from the town of Corleone, was known as Bernie the Tractor because, as one informant reported, he mowed people down. Following his arrest in the mid-2000s, Provenzano was given a total of 20 life sentences plus 49 years and 1 month, and solitary confinement for 33 years and 6 months. In the aftermath, Denaro was often mentioned in the conversation as his successor, with some reports indicating that Provenzano himself had named him to take over. In contrast to his more conservative predecessors, Denaro earned a reputation for fast living, as he drove expensive sports cars, wore luxury watches, and clad himself in Armani and Versace clothing. He was also known as a womanizer, whereas his predecessors like Provenzano had adhered to stricter family values. In 2002, Denaro was sentenced in absentia to life in prison for 1993 bombings. The mobster's mythology grew in the eyes of his associates and the public as he successfully remained on the run for 3 decades, a period during which he maintained his lavish living, even as the state was gradually seizing his fortune. From November of 2008 to September of 2010, the authorities successfully took control of a combined $3 billion in assets from Sicilian supermarket mogul Giuseppe Grigoli, construction magnate Rosario Castillo, and businessman Vito Nicastri, all of whom had proven business ties to Denaro. After numerous leads that proved ineffective and after dozens were arrested in cases of mistaken identity, the police ultimately tracked Denaro down to a clinic in Palermo in January of 2023, where he was receiving chemotherapy for colon cancer under a fake name. Over 100 members of the armed forces were involved in capturing Denaro, who was previously regarded as untouchable. At the time of his arrest, his assets were valued at over $4 billion, and he topped the list as Italy's most wanted criminal. A crucial piece of information towards locating him was a coded note that he'd sent to his sister, Rosalia. Months prior to Denaro's arrest, it was found inside the leg of an aluminium chair at Rosalia's home in the town of Castelvetrano. During an operation in which law enforcement was trying to plant listening devices, the note detailed the struggles with cancer of a person whom, by a process of elimination, the police deduced as Denaro. It remained unclear what information, if any, Denaro revealed to investigators regarding his activity as a Cosa Nostra boss before he succumbed to cancer on September the 25th of 2023. Thanks for watching. If you could instantly make a body part bigger, which would it be and why? Let us know in the comments section below.